House Intel Chair Devin Nunes, Mueller indictment left out Russians, also targeted Republicans. Isn't that convenient of Mr. Robert Mueller III, right? By Jim Hoft for the GatewayPundit.com. House Intelligence Committee Chairman joined Maria Bartiromo on Sunday Morning Futures to discuss Mueller's junk indictments on Friday. Representative Nunes told Maria Bartiromo every bit of the Mueller special counsel indictments were already published by the House Intelligence Committees in April. Dirty cop Robert Mueller indicted 12 more Russians on Friday in his opening witch hunt to discredit and bring down the Trump administration in a phony collusion scandal. Mueller and accomplice Rosenstein waited to announce the junk charges until the U.S. president was on foreign soil and just days before his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. To date, 80% of Robert Mueller's junk indictments have been against Russians who will never face a U.S. court because they will never visit the United States. So again, but you know what? The people are smart. We already know what Mueller and his accomplice Rosenstein are up to. So, we took it with a grain of salt. It now appears that all of this new and urgent information released by dirty cop Robert Mueller, by dirty cop Rosenstein, on Friday, was already published months ago in the House Intel report on Russian active measures released by Representative Devin Nunes. Devin Nunes tweeted out on Friday, specifically, you only had to read page 4, findings 7 through 10. Just reading chapter 2, you would have got the gist of it. All this, despite the ridiculous redactions. Sadly, the media ignored most of our findings on March 22nd and the whole report since April 27. Molly here, anyone who months ago read HPSC / Nunes report on Russian meddling learned very little new information from today's indictment. Devin Nunes tweeted out on Friday that his House Intel panel report on Russian active measures uncovered everything in the latest Mueller Russia indictments. It is all listed on the summary of findings in the April House Intelligence report. So this all came out in April. Again, the full House Intel report is here and includes all the details from Rosenstein's, quote, urgent press conference on Friday. Rosenstein and Mueller did this on the last business day before the Trump-Putin meeting in Helsinki. Rosenstein interrupted President Trump's foreign trip to drop this information that was previously released by the House Intelligence Committee. Yeah, we know that. We're hip to Mueller's and Rosenstein's tricks. Representative Nunes told Maria Bartiromo Mueller and Rosenstein left out the fact, how convenient, right, that the Russians also targeted the Republican Party in their report. Gee, why would that be? Yeah, wow, what a shocker. Mueller left out that he targeted the Republicans were targeted also.
Special counsel Robert Mueller indicting 12 Russian intelligence officers, accusing them of hacking the DNC and the Clinton campaign in order to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. This as President Trump is gearing up to meet face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin tomorrow in Helsinki. Joining me right now to talk about all of the above, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes. Mr. Chairman, it's always a pleasure to see you.
It's great to be here live. I'm not coming from California.
I know, I'm
so
not.
Different.
It's great that you're on set, so thank you very much. These Russian indictments, we could have known about them earlier this year when you actually came out with your report back in March, and then the findings released to the public at the end of April. I've got the report right in front of me. Your reaction to these indictments?
Well, we knew about this a year and a half ago. Almost everything in the indictment we knew about. In March 22nd, we released our findings that you have in front of you right there. Those findings were available March 22nd. If you remember, the media mocked us.
Yes, I do remember.
They made fun of the Republicans. They said it was a whitewash. The Democrats said it was a whitewash. Nearly everything the Democrats said about our report was that it was a whitewash. Then we had to fight with the intelligence agencies and the Department of Justice so that they would not redact and they would declassify our report. That was finished in April. So this entire report that you have in front of you, including all you had to do was get to page 4, and you only had to read chapter 2, and you would have had nearly everything that's in the indictment.
It's pretty incredible. Look at all these redactions that you can actually see on the screen.
And it's page after page of that. And actually, there's more in this report than what's in the indictment. Okay, and this is what's very frustrating. So it's great that they indicted Russians. Yes, they did bad things, and they're always up to bad things. We know that they have very sophisticated intelligence capabilities in Russia, and they're constantly attacking the United States and our allies. However, in the indictment, they leave out some really important people that they also went after. So the indictment plays like they're only going after the Democrats, when Bob Mueller and all his investigators and his lawyers know for a fact that they also targeted Republicans. Why is that not in the indictment? It makes the indictment look ridiculous.
Okay, so
I'm not saying they shouldn't be indicted.
The
I'm just saying
Russians
that
were targeting both Democrats and Republicans.
And Republicans.
Yeah.
And they know that. It's in our report. So why doesn't the Department of Justice allow this to be declassified so the American public can see this?
The other thing is that these people are never going to see justice, right? I mean, we don't have jurisdiction over these people. They're not going to come to the U.S., and so they really won't actually be held accountable.
Right, they're intelligence officers, so they're not going to be held accountable. It doesn't mean, though, that we shouldn't call out Russia for attacking and conducting cyber attacks on our systems.
But the timing of this, I mean, they released this right after the Peter Strzok hearing, and your point is, we knew all of this a year ago. Why is now the time to make these arrests and not a year ago when you actually had the information?
Well, I have to call into question. You knew about this a year and a half ago. You for sure knew it because you got our report. So you for sure knew it by March and April of this year. And then it looks like all the Mueller team did was validate our report, indict some Russians, and leave out, I think, some very pertinent relative of evidence that the American public should see, which is why we continue to have to fight. This report has been mocked by the media, has been mocked by the Democrats, and still is mostly redacted by the Department of Justice and the intelligence agencies.
And all of these redactions really underline a common theme, and that has been obstruction on the left. You look at that Peter Strzok trial Peter Strzok hearing last week, and there was so much obstruction on the Democrat. They were trying to change the subject. They were trying to stop the questioning of what went on during the 2016 election. So how are you going to get to the information when you see you're in a catch-22 situation? Because every time you want to know why the Trump collusion investigation launched in the first place, but when you ask that question of Peter Strzok or anybody else in the FBI, they're going to say, we can't talk about it because it's an active investigation, and it is by the special counsel.
Yeah, so there's a couple of points I think that are important. So we have before July 31st of 2016, we have asked the Department of Justice for months and months and months. I've said on your show, did you run informants? How many informants did you have before the investigation was even open? How much did you pay these informants to run into Trump campaign or officials or associates? Because the Department of Justice is trying to say, and the FBI, that they didn't do anything until after July 31st. So we're still waiting on that information. I think that is really important information the American people should know. The second biggest problem we have is that the President of the United States has got to declassify this. If the President of the United States would have declassified this, if you go through page after page after page of this, okay, the Mueller indictment would look ridiculous today if this was if this was unredacted and declassified.
Well, you know what? Because there is a big portion of the country that will say, oh, he's trying to get in the middle of an investigation, which is why I asked the president 2 weeks ago when I sat down with him in that exclusive interview with President Trump, whether or not he's going to declassify these documents. Listen to this. Why don't you just direct your subordinates to get those documents over to Congress? Are you going to do it?
The one thing I want to stay uninvolved in, at least for now, I may get involved. Okay. But I've been told by so many people, don't get involved. You know, other people got involved and it's not good. And they'll get the documents and they're getting them.
Meanwhile, there's an op-ed in this weekend's Wall Street Journal, and the title is, After the Strzok Stonewall, basically saying we're obviously not going to get to the truth through the legal process. The president has got to declassify. Do you think he'll do it?
Well, I think he has to, and I think this is a great example of it. It's not just about Strzok. It's not just about the FISA. Now you have information in our report here that he should have already declassified. And I think then the American people, would have known. I mean, we basically wrote the indictment for Mueller. I mean, the House Republicans, without the support of the Democrats, wrote the indictment for the Mueller special counsel, essentially, and information that we've had for over a year. So now you have Strzok, who is stonewalling Congress, not answering questions, looks very foolish. You add on to the fact that you still have the FISA that's sitting out there that should be declassified so the American public can see it. Because what is consistent in all of this investigation for a year and a half? House Republicans come out and say something, and then we get attacked by the mainstream media, mocked by the mainstream media and the Democrats. But every time when the truth eventually comes out, we're proven right. And we will be proven right again if the majority of the FISA is declassified so the American public can make up their mind. What were the counterintelligence agencies abused by the Obama administration, or were they not?
Yeah, and at this point, we've got, 25 or 26 Russians that have been indicted. The number of Russians colluding with Donald Trump, 0. 5 Americans indicted, 4 of them for lying to the FBI and Manafort for a 20-year-old bank fraud. So there are reports today that the special counsel is looking to wrap this up by the end of the summer. Do you believe that?
I don't believe it. I mean, they look, I hope that's the case, but they look way too political to me. Because every time it seems like something comes out, Strzok or before that we had when the FISA stuff came out, the special counsel always seems to be reactive to try to, I think, create narratives. And maybe that's not the case, but it sure looks like the case.
So where does your investigation stand now into the State Department and into really how this launch took place of the Trump-Russia?
We are waiting on the Department of Justice to give us that information before July 31st, which for week after week after week, they continue not to do it. They did provide a lot of documents that are aiding us in our investigation. And then we have kicked over 42 names. Strzok and Page are 2 of those 42
But also
names.
Glenn Simpson is on that list.
Yeah, so we kicked it to the task force from the Oversight Committee in which Mr. Ratcliffe is on this task force. We need these people interviewed on camera as soon as possible.
Real quick, before you go, let me ask you in terms of what happens now and, whether or not you think we're going to see accountability here.
I think you only see accountability if there is either a second special counsel that investigates all of this, or there's somebody that is outside of the leadership of the Department of Justice who can run a real investigation on abuse of power and other issues.
What should the president ask or speak to Putin about?
Well, the president has to be told. Well, number one, I would say don't hand a reset button over like the Hillary Clinton did.
Yeah,
right? That's number one. Number two, what he's doing with Europe and NATO is what's needed to be done for a long time, which is 1, pay your fair share, and 2, we cannot allow Eastern Europe to rely on Russian gas. The Germans are building pipelines, getting Russian gas, feeding the Russian beast, right? While the Germans are only paying 1.3%. So I laugh about all these people who are saying that Trump shouldn't meet with Putin. Trump has done more on the highest issues at the most important level, pointing them out to the Europeans and the American people that you've got to stop buying gas from Russians and you have to beef up defense in Poland, Romania, and the Baltics. That's what needs to happen, and only by force brute force will Putin understand anything. And we should give the president the room to do that.
And you would imagine that these indictments are brought up as well.
Yeah, I would guess. But you know, it's just ridiculous.
Mr. Chairman, it's really good to see you this morning.
Nice to see you in person.
Thank you so much for joining us. All right, coming up next, a powerful...
Well, as you can see, Trump is accomplishing so much with all this pressure on him. But I think Trump eventually is going to, declassify everything and let the cat out of the bag. Because why are they withholding the paperwork for when this investigation actually started, you see? Because it would throw the whole Mueller witch hunt out the door, out the window. Well, they're going to get to the bottom of this, because Nunes and the rest of them are not going to give up on this, and they will be held accountable. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.